Ok. Saludos, José, Miguel, bienvenido. Miguel, ¿llegaste a hablar con John? Ya hice el connection. Ok, pues también hoy por la mañana te envío un email. Ok. Voy a probar mi share screen, a ver si se ve por acá. Screen share. Hola, Amanda. Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen? Okay. Yeah. We wait a couple of minutes. We had around 20 people that they RSVP. So we'll wait for them, or wait a couple of minutes, and then we'll start. We had an hour and a half set for this webinar. I imagine it's gonna be more like an hour, depending on how long we take the discussion after this, after the presentations. And just to kill some time, I would like to thank everybody that came to the Juris Night this past Saturday or over at Palmas del Mar Yacht Club. We started at 3 p.m. and we had about 9 to 10 student clubs to present their space related projects, and it was really, really beautiful and amazing to see all the innovation that's happening in the island. And yeah, and we will continue to do the community engagement through our local universities. This Juris Night was a complete success. There were um, all the networking that happened. Uh, Good things will come out of it, especially for the students and their projects. It's 3:01. We'll give around 2 to 3 more minutes to have everybody join. I see that Jim joined. How you doing, Jim? Roberto. Good. I can hear you. It's my okay. It's my speakers. It's slow. All good. Are you ready for this? Yeah. Were you successful in getting anyone to join us from your part? Okay. Yeah. Afterwards we can. I believe some of the presentations could be sent to the group, so you can have a guide on on what we're going to be talking about. Okay, it's 3:03. One more minute, and we'll start. I guess I don't know if anybody saw the news, but Deborah Martorell is going to be flying. She's our local meteorologist, and she just announced yesterday she will be flying with Blue Origin in New Shepard sometime this summer or in fall. Yeah, she was yesterday over at Texas, greeting all the female astronauts. I believe also Roberto, you're here, right? You are you there in Texas right now? Well, yes, awesome. So Roberto was the one that certified that last launch. So all the safety feature, and it was a flawless flight. So thank you, Roberto, for that. Okay, it's 3:04. We're gonna start the webinar. How does Puerto Rico pay you? Basically, this idea came about during the Vision Weekend of the Foresight Institute. The Vision Weekend is their annual event, and this for the first time it happened in Puerto Rico. I believe late January, early February, if I'm not mistaken. Early February. James is one of the co-founders, if I'm not mistaken, of the Foresight Institute, and we had a breakout session that was just Act 60, and it was really interesting to see the amount of people interested in the Act 60 incentives that Puerto Rico has to offer, and that's why we are doing this, because James was like, "Hey, Jose, I'm interested in Act 60. I have a couple of companies and the individuals interested in this." So I decided to do just an all out webinar, and invited the experts. So we have Jose Hernandez from Invest Puerto Rico. He's our local aerospace business development personnel at over Invest. His job is to attract aerospace business to the island. And we also have our Amanda from DECA Analytics. DECA is the tax expert, one of the many of tax service providers that we have in the island. DECA has supported the Puerto Rico Space Foundation since the beginning, so that's why we always go to DECA to ask for their support for this kind of webinars and activities, and they always say yes. So DECA will delve more into the nitty gritty incentives, while Jose from Invest Puerto Rico will give you an overview of the aerospace ecosystem. So basically, yeah. So that our the agenda is just a brief introduction. I wanna open the floor to for everyone here to introduce themselves. Just a short introduction to because that way we know who we're speaking to and how to navigate on our focus areas of this conversation. Then we'll have Jose Hernandez give us a presentation on the aerospace ecosystem. I have here 20 minutes, but it's going to be a shorter presentation. And quickly, I'm going to jump into the spaceport value proposition. For those that you guys, for those that who don't know, we have an ongoing spaceport license for horizontal takeoff and landing, and we have an RFP out for vertical launch site, both in the same area. So we'll talk more into that about that soon. And we will talk about spaceport because, as you know, this spaceport it's a magnet to for many. It's an attractive for companies for the island. And then we'll jump into the Act 60 overview with DECA Analytics, and then we'll open again the floor for for an open discussion. We invited a couple of Act 60 people here that already have the decree. So if they're here, hopefully they can talk about their experience with Act 60 and how it has benefited them in their in their business. So I'm going to start with the introduction. My name is Jose Molina from the Puerto Rico Space Foundation. So our I guess our motto is to build the Caribbean space hub in the island. My background is in aerospace engineering. I have been working with it, trying to put a spaceport in the island for the past a decade plus, with little success. So I decided to step aside and do a nonprofit and help anyone that wishes to build a spaceport in Puerto Rico and wants to come to the island. That's why we exist. So what is a space hub? Basically, it's a conglomerate of companies, research or manufacturing, all that use space for their operations or for innovation. So that's what we're trying to build in Puerto Rico. Furthermore, which I'm going to talk about later, but part of this is to converge the local industry with the space economy. For example, our largest industry in Puerto Rico is the pharmaceutical, and over 80% of the R&D done in space is life science, in the pharma arena. So it makes sense to have that kind of convergence in the island. Once again, our mission is to converge our local industry with the space economy, and we do this through education, entrepreneurship, workforce development. The development. We were invited in early 2024 to the White House Space Council. So basically, the message that we want to convey is space is for all. You don't have to be an engineer or or a pilot to go to space or use space for innovation. Our four pillars are its education, entrepreneurship, workforce development, and community. In education, we run a virtual analog astronautics training. We have graduated over 30 people already. From there, they go to the Mojave Desert. And the skills that they gain is, many skills from survival to thriving in harsh environment, communications, leadership skills, besides many others. We also have a microgravity drop tower for schools that we are developing. Hopefully, by the end of this month, we have one deployed at one of the schools. But basically, we're trying to bring the wonders of space into the classroom. So the kids start using microgravity for innovation, and then they can compete the NASA Glenn Drop Tower Challenge. In the entrepreneurship aspect, we run the first Space Business Plan Hackathon. And basically, it's the hackathon was converging a space business with the local incentive, which we will be talking today. And we had a team that won, and they're now that team actually they're getting investment right now, and they're doing space medicine. And Miguel is one of the founders. He's here in the call. In the workforce development, we have the Space Career Masterclass. Is where we it's a 1 week intense program where we take young professionals and help them, get attain a job in the space industry through a career coaching um, classes. Furthermore, we also invite companies to participate on the coaching, and the companies accept the resumes that we sent from the participants. In the community outreach, we just recently had our Judy's night in the Jack Club. This is the 2024. Basically, we gather all the space, aerospace stakeholders in the island, space enthusiasts, the students, and we all converge just to talk about space and have fun. We also supported bringing an astronaut to Puerto Rico to give talks to the local community. We do talks around the island. If there's a school or an organization that wants us to present about the space and the space economy, call us, and we'll be available to go to your facility to give the talk. And then we'll talk about the spaceport more in depth. So that's just a brief introduction of the Puerto Rico Space Foundation. Just to let you know, in October 28th, we'll have the Caribbean Space Summit to continue this conversation. So I would like to just open the floor for brief introductions to see where we're gonna take the conversation. I see that we have Miguel Soto. If you're able to give a brief background on who you are and why you're here, just a minute, so we can understand where to take this conversation. Loud and clear.
Hi, my name is Miguel Soto, and I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm being in the virtual analyst astronaut from Aerospace, and then I've been selected to go to California to Mojave Desert to an in-person training. Now this day I'm being in the International Astronautical Science in Florida with Deborah, and currently I'm working with the Medinova Space Medicine. We're creating a new space medicine development. So been working with the PRSS.
Thank you. I see Jim.
Hi, I'm Bennett. I'm a long-time commercial space person, involved in co-founder of 2 different rocket companies as far back as the 80s. Also been working with, as I mentioned, the Foresight Institute on nanotechnology and other future technologies. Currently working as a consultant and advisor with several companies, Immortal Data, which Jose is familiar with, currently doing survivable black boxes and working with FAA and the U.S. Navy on some interesting projects. And the long-term goal is to basically use AI to enable much smarter spacecraft. Smart Ship is our ultimate product, and they are quite interested in conducting some of the R&D in Puerto Rico, especially if the Spaceport project goes. Another one is Cube Inc., which is a CubeSat company specializing in remote sensing for water applications. And they have just concluded a multi-billion-dollar contract with an entity that can't be named yet for another month, but it is real, and they are also quite interested in replicating their subsidiary model. And the company that gave them, the country that gave them the award, is setting up a subsidiary in their country, which will be licensed from Cube US, and they're interested in using the same model in a Puerto Rico Spaceport, and perhaps putting some of the functions like ground stations at that location. So I'm sort of scouting and reporting back on using these incentives to make it more possible and move quickly. I'm also working with 3 other companies, but they're in stealth mode and prefer not to be identified at this point for strategic reasons, but they're real too.
Thanks, Jim.
So I'm here with a great deal of interest.
Appreciate it. I see Noel Torres. Yep.
That's right.
Hi, my name is Noel Torres. I'm the president and business owners of 90D S2E, which is a company dedicated to strategic deployment for multinational and foreign corporations that want to move to Puerto Rico, taking advantage of the different incentives. We are located in the north side of Puerto Rico, and we are a partner of the SBA, Small Business Administration, supporting businesses in the metro area and the north side of Puerto Rico.
Thank you, Noel. Michael Lane, long time no seen. Good to see you. Michael Lane is the father of space elevators. Michael, you are unmuted.
Sorry. You'd think after 5 years we'd know how to turn our microphones off and on. He's right. I actually toured Puerto Rico. Jose and others brought me around the island almost 15 years ago. So nothing happened back then. But I am in fact trying to rebuild work on the lunar elevator, restart work on the lunar elevator, and so I'm starting to pay attention again to what my options are. So I wanted to catch this. Curiously, James, you and I are strangers, but I talked to Joe just about 3 hours ago. So congratulations to you.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
He just told me that he had a very stimulating conversation this morning. I suspect that's you.
That was me. So small world. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's it. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you, Michael. We have other 12 people here, I believe. We have Brandon Haley. Are you here? Let's see if I see. We got 20 here. Brandon, are you here? Nope. Anyone else that am I missing? Roberto?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. First, I wanted to, for the record, I'm from Blue Origin, but I do not represent the company. I'm currently here as representing my own views, so I do not represent the company. And then with that out of the way, so I'm Roberto. I'm currently an aerospace engineer at Blue Origin. As Jose mentioned at the beginning, I've been here in Texas, in Van Horn, supporting the New Shepard launch that we just launched yesterday. And I'm pretty excited about this meeting. I'm a natural-born Puerto Rican, so I was born and raised in Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico. I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering at the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez. And now I'm currently based in Kent, Washington, working at Blue. But I'm a young professional, as many others, and I'm one of those people who I strive and I aim to come back to the island
and develop the space ecosystem there. So I'm excited about this opportunity, talking with you all, and getting to discuss how we can enable that space development in Puerto Rico. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Roberto. I see George Burke. You here?
I'm here.
Awesome. So this webinar is George Burke's fault. We're all here because of him. He's the one with the idea, the Foresight Institute. So go ahead, George. Thank you.
Sure. I went to Puerto Rico in 2021. I run a crypto business back in the States that hires me as a contractor here. And I'm also an angel investor, so I get a lot of benefit out of the zero capital gains being here. Also, like the amount of business opportunity here is pretty amazing. Some of the smartest entrepreneurs are here. In fact, I would say that the smartest entrepreneurs are the ones who can figure out how to dodge taxes. Right? I know. I mean, the smartest thing to do is to not throw away your money and to use it to grow. So, yeah. What sort of questions can I answer for you here?
Well, let's continue with the introductions, and we'll leave that to the end for the open discussion. Denise Bonnet, are you here? Okay. We're going through introductions. Okay. Hi, Denise.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm on my phone, so I'm trying to switch the screens here. My name is Denise Bonet. I have a background in working in clinical research, specifically in digital health and technology R&D. I also do some consulting for investors and other companies that are working on expanding on their tech or looking to optimize their investments. And so a friend of mine had sent me this meeting because I'm also Puerto Rican, and so I love to just learn to see what opportunities are available, what other ways I could potentially link others to these types of opportunities. And I'm just a nerd, and I love to learn about a lot of different things. So I'm just excited to learn from all of you. So thank you so much for your time and for putting this together.
Appreciate it. Once again, Brandon, Haley, Waldron, can you hear me? If not, we'll jump to Alexis Rivera. We're doing introductions, Alexis. Okay. So let's continue with the agenda. So next is Invest Puerto Rico, Jose Hernandez with the aerospace ecosystem presentation.
Pleasure to meet you all. Also, Luis Hernandez here. May I share my screen?
Go for it. You have to hit the present now.
Yeah, this is the first time I use this. Bear with me. It reminds me to those old chat services like Latin chat from 20 years ago. So bear with me. Can you see my screen by any chance?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Full screen mode. All right, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Also, Luis Hernandez here from Invest Puerto Rico. I'm going to give you a quick introduction of what Invest Puerto Rico is, how we fit into the question of bringing new companies to the island. By way of background, I have a background in computer science and mathematics. And before doing this role in Invest Puerto Rico, I worked for Honeywell Aerospace for 12 years. I was a data analytics manager. I had a team of data scientists in Bangalore, India, and we were in charge of all the reporting strategy for the customer and production support. That operation was being run from Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, and we were exporting those services to the headquarters in Phoenix for Honeywell Aerospace. Now, Invest Puerto Rico is the nonprofit responsible for bringing new companies to the island. That is also the capital investment, and of course, create new jobs. The way we're measured is the amount of companies we bring on the fiscal year basis, how many jobs are created, how many companies, and the capital investment. In other words, We either travel the world, we participate in conferences, sales missions, and we just promote Puerto Rico as a destination for investment. Now, among the services that Invest Puerto Rico offer, keep in mind that there are two main entities that work with businesses on the island. That is the Department of Economic Development and Commerce and Invest Puerto Rico. The Department of Economic Development and Commerce manages existing companies, and they help them expand and retain those companies on the island. Invest Puerto Rico manages new businesses. So it is our responsibility bringing new companies and offering the services that you see on the screen. For example, if the company wants to learn a little bit about the, let's say, aerospace or the space sector, we compile whatever information they require and we send it their way. Why? Because we want to have those decision makers focus on their operations, and we just do the heavy lifting on the side. Let's now say that the company is indeed interested in expanding to Puerto Rico. They need to look for a facility. So the customer shares the specifications, what is the facility it is looking for. And we're going to go to both the private sector and the government sector. And we're going to compile a list of properties that might fit the specifications. Lastly, of course, let's say that the customer is looking for 10 mechanical engineers. The company is going to share those job descriptions with us. And we're going to go to the workforce companies and we're going to compile the information as, for example, a payroll for 10 mechanical engineers with benefits is going to cost you X amount of money. So the company is going to have a clear picture of how much it's going to cost them.
Jose, are you there? We lost you. Jose.
It's one of the biggest. Yeah.
No, that we lost you for a second. Or at least I did.
I lost it. So could you give the last 30 seconds, 60 seconds again?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the Wi-Fi from my office. It's acting up, so my apologies for that. So did you hear the workforce piece, which is right in the middle?
Can you repeat it?
I heard you at last that if you were looking for a facility, we could help you with
right. So we're going to compile. Yes, we're going to compile a list of properties depending on what the customer is looking for. We're going to grab those specifications, and we're going to look for properties in the government sector and in the private sector. Then if the company is saying it's going to hire, let's say, 5 mechanical engineers, we're going to gather those job descriptions, and we're going to go to the workforce companies out there, like Careers Puerto Rico. We're going to go to BMA Group. We're going to go to the top recruiters, and they're going to tell us how much that payroll is going to look like with benefits and vacation and everything. So the company is going to have an idea how much it's going to cost them to operate from Puerto Rico with that payroll. When it comes to the sectors, Invest Puerto Rico focuses on the top 4. That is bioscience, medical devices, pharmaceuticals. We've been for 60 years. We became the powerhouse. Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly, Amgen, AbbVie. You can imagine we have all the top pharmaceuticals and also medical device manufacturers operating from Puerto Rico. Aerospace is the next one, energy sectors, and the technology sector. Of course, we have other ones like advanced manufacturing, professional services, creative industries, and so on. When you look at the map right here, Puerto Rico is strategically located between North America, South America, but it's also strategically located between Europe and the United States. Right now, it is 3 p.m., but it is right now 11 a.m. in California, 11 or 12 p.m. in California, but it is 4, 5, 6 hours ahead of Europe. So if a company decides to use Puerto Rico as a hub to take, let's say, provide services to both Europe and the United States or Latin America, they can do it for Puerto Rico, and they're going to be covering both time zones with a bilingual workforce. So that's one of the many benefits that you have for operating from Puerto Rico. Real quick with that Puerto Rico's economy, when people think about Puerto Rico, they think, of course, the tourism, the food, the beaches, music like Bad Bunny and all that. But of course, tourism comprises only 6% of our GDP. When you look at the numbers, manufacturing is almost 50%. That is because all those companies that I mentioned a couple of slides ago, Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, Amgen, they are the ones who export pretty much $52 billion in pharmaceuticals every year from Puerto Rico. Aerospace. Aerospace has been around for almost 30 years in Puerto Rico, and the first company who established operations here was Hamilton Sundstrand. That was a long time ago. In 2022, Puerto Rico had close to 4 major primes. Those were, I'm going to be showing those companies in the next slide. So in 2022, the companies generated a total of $625 million. That is services that were exported from Puerto Rico and also in R&D. There were 30 plus companies that supported the cluster indirectly or directly, and the cluster per se hired close to $6,000. That number right now is reaching 6,800 employees. In total, there's almost 17 to 18,000 employees that are supported directly or indirectly the cluster, which is located in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. That is on the northwest side of the island. As of today, we have the 4 major primes operating for Puerto Rico. That is Honeywell Aerospace, Lockheed Martin, Collins Aerospace, and Pratt & Whitney. But also we have companies like Lufthansa, which are doing MRO operations for Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. That is, they're servicing A319s and A320s, and they're doing major repairs and overhauls. They do not repair engines due to capability issues and space issues, but they pretty much do the rest of the repairs and maintenance of these aircraft. Now you have companies that, for example, GTM Global Tech at the bottom. They're a manufacturer of defense articles. They're located in Ceiba, Puerto Rico, and of course Maxar, which they provide AI services and software services to multiple defense companies around the states. I wanted to do like a quick x-ray of one of the companies, in this case, Honeywell Aerospace, and I know pretty much all this information because I spent 12 years of my life working here. Honeywell has 3 facilities in Puerto Rico. The one that you see on the top, it's the Aguadilla facility. They have the back office roles, that is, it's mostly comprised of engineers, but they also do the procurement, sourcing, customer support, and all those operations happen from that side. The one that you see at the bottom, it's the electromagnetic interference and compatibility lab. That structure right there, it's used to test. If you recall, when you're in an airplane and you're about to take off, and they say, "Please turn your cell phones off," they test how aircrafts behave when you have all the radio signal interferences for other devices. So all those testing and R&D, it's happening in that facility right there. The third facility is the Guaynabo Honeywell Aftermarket facility, which is they bring customers to Puerto Rico, and when they're going to sign deals, because the deal is being signed from Puerto Rico, by extension, they use the 4% in corporate taxes. So we're talking about now that companies are signing deals from the island, and those customers have been using the benefits from the corporate taxes that we have in Puerto Rico. Now, this operation in Puerto Rico has closed down to 1,200 employees. Most of them are engineers. Right now, it's close to 700 engineers. The attrition rate is close to 6%. That is, when you hire an engineer in Puerto Rico, they become loyal to your operation because you are allowing them to stay in Puerto Rico, close to the family, close to the loved ones, and close to their friends. And lastly, and which is most important, the sites that are open in Puerto Rico are considered defense sites. That is, with that designation, companies can open facilities such as SCIFs and also do classified work for any type of government agency or company who wants to do any kind of R&D that is classified in nature. Now, why these companies are in Puerto Rico? This is the value proposition here in a snapshot. We use the same currency as the United States, the same regulations, same laws, same federal regulations apply to us in the case of aerospace and defense, ITAR, ER, FARS, DFARS, all those regulations apply to us because we are a United States territory. Super important to know and understand that if you're a manufacturer and you bring the raw materials from, doesn't matter from where in the planet, if the final assembly is happening in Puerto Rico and at least 30% of that assembly happens here, you can put the label the made in USA. So that is a really attractive feature that we have in Puerto Rico. When it comes to the academia and the universities, we have 4 major engineering schools, being the top ones in San Juan, Puerto Rico. the Polytechnic University, and the University of Puerto Rico, Maya West. This one right here is the most important one in the entire Caribbean. We graduate around 18,000 STEM-related degrees. 1,500 of those are engineers that are that are graduating here from this campus. Right here, you're going to get a snapshot of what the salaries are. These are the top engineering positions that usually get hired in Puerto Rico in the aerospace cluster. Notice that when you compare ourselves to other aerospace and space jurisdictions, our talent is affordable. It's bilingual, it's affordable, and it's super experienced. That universities require the students to do at least from 2 to 3 internships every summer. Some of them are required to do co-ops, which is 5 months in length. So the talent, it has a lot of experience. Now, of course, when it comes to the incentives, this is also one of the main reasons why the companies expand to Puerto Rico. What was Act 20 and Act 2022, they were all merged under Act 60, and that is the act that uses all the activities that companies can do for Puerto Rico, and they now have all the incentives combined in one. And of course, because we are a United States territory, we are not enforced to pay federal taxes, corporate federal tax. That is, if you're paying right now 21% in California, and you're also paying your California corporate tax, let's say 10%, you're paying 31% in taxes. In Puerto Rico, you're only going to pay 4% in corporate taxes. That's it. But what activities are eligible for that? These ones right here at the bottom. So the way I explain this to companies is, imagine any role that will require a human being in front of a computer that can do the job from Puerto Rico, and your customer is outside of Puerto Rico. That automatically qualifies as an export of goods and services. You're exporting your services outside of Puerto Rico, and we incentivize that activity with the 4% in corporate taxes. When you apply to receive that 4%, you enter into a contract with the government, which is called a decree. The decree has a validity of 15 years, but it's negotiable to get expanded to another 15. So we're talking about that any company who decides to do work from Puerto Rico and export services from the island might be entitled to 30 years paying 4% in taxes. When it comes to federal taxes, right there, 0. And this is the most important part, which is the R&D tax credits. Companies who do direct investment in R&D from Puerto Rico are entitled up to 50% of that investment via tax credit. Let's say that there's a space company that want to create some kind of new satellite technology, and they decide to do it from Puerto Rico. With the R&D tax credits, you can use them to offset the salary of the employees, the purchase of machinery and equipment that is required to work on the project, even the utilities, electricity, water, internet, and in some cases, you can even offset the payments for the lease of the property that you're using to do the R&D. Imagine you invested $1 million, and at the end of the year, you submit your application to the Department of Economic Development. Government, I invested $1 million. The government is going to say, perfect, you're entitled now to $500,000 R&D tax credits. Those tax credits are transferable and or sellable. So imagine now you decide to sell those tax credits at, let's say, 90 cents on the dollar. Here comes an investment bank and tells you, yeah, I'm going to buy those tax credits for you. And now you're just making $400-something thousand that you didn't have on an investment that you already had in your books that you weren't going to make. And now you're bringing liquidity to your operation in Puerto Rico. This is the main reason why most of the pharmaceuticals and the aerospace companies are in Puerto Rico, because they're doing R&D, and they can use those tax credits to pay for the talent, to pay for the innovation that is going on the island, and this is how they keep growing. Cash grants, that is usually depending on the amount of jobs that you are creating. If the company is creating between 40 to 50 jobs and above, the government of Puerto Rico usually entitles from $2,000 to $3,000 in cash grants to the company for every job that is created and retained. That is a check that the government gives you at the end of the year. And lastly, Puerto Rico has access to federal funds that allow companies to use them to train, let's say, new hires, to retrain existing talent, or even, let's say that, for example, you need to do a specialized training into mechatronics because you're working on advanced air mobility. You need to bring a specialized training people from the United States. You need to bring them to Puerto Rico. So the payment for that person and the salary of those employees while they're checking the training might be offset with programs such like this. And then, of course, we are connectors. We're going to connect the company that is in need to expand or wants to explore Puerto Rico as an option. We're going to connect you with whoever player is going to be key in making you a successful island. And for any questions, Jose, do we take questions now or do we take them at the end?
Let's take them at the end. So we have DECA give their presentation. Let's since we're running, let's start with DECA and then I'll jump into the spaceport.
Okay, thank you everybody. A pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you, Jose. Amanda.
I'm here.
Hello, Amanda.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Let me share my real quick. I want to thank Jose, who helped me a bit there and gave a bit of an introduction to what I was going to say. So that's awesome. I'm going to try to dig a bit deeper into this topic. And so, hi, my name is Amanda. Roberto, I'm also a colegial, so it's always great to be in contact with another Sangre Verde. And so I'm a tax attorney. I work at a firm that deals on the daily with incentives, and our clients are mainly people like you that are considering moving to Puerto Rico or have moved to Puerto Rico and are in the process of obtaining a tax degree. I'm going to skip several slides, even though I don't usually like that, but this was just meant here to imply or communicate that Puerto Rico is very well connected, and that currently, as it has been discussed during the previous talks, there are big players that are already here. This is my main point. Okay, so jumping from the Act 60, the different categories that Jose put, I like to narrow them down a little bit and be a bit more specific when describing which entities will qualify, because Act 60 has several chapters, and while exporting services is one of them, usually the easiest way to obtain R&D credits are whenever an entity is doing manufacturing. And that manufacturing doesn't have to be done entirely on your behalf. You could be subcontracted or do an R&D activity that is done for a third party. When thinking of manufacturing, one needs to think on the 20th century and not consider just a random supply chain. And
Did we lose Amanda?
I think we did.
Yes. Okay.
Software.
Amanda. Now, yeah, we lost you for the last 30 seconds.
I'm so sorry. There was a thing saying that my internet was slow. Yeah, I did absolutely nothing. So I was mentioning that both software development and the licensing of intangible property can also be considered as part of an Act 60 degree. When it comes to other chapters of the incentives code, which is Act 60, one needs to ask for permission in order to get those R&D credits, because an exporter wouldn't be naturally expected to do R&D services when engaging in their normal operations. Therefore, even though it is allowed, one would need to ask for permission prior to just starting to collect the expenses and organizing them and allocating them to the R&D activity, okay?
And so the benefits of an Act 60, as Jose was describing, you would have a preferential tax rate when it comes to corporate taxes. Your dividends would be tax exempt, which is a beautiful thing, as long as they are realized here in Puerto Rico. Obviously, Puerto Rico does not have jurisdiction in the States, so if the owners that are receiving those dividends are located in the States, that realized gain is going to be taxed where it's realized. So that the realization of that gain needs to happen in Puerto Rican soil in order for it to be taxed at 0%. You would also get other benefits like reduce preferential tax rate when it comes to sales tax, which here in Puerto Rico is 11.5, which, I mean, I pay it every day. It's not the best thing. You would also get excise taxes benefits when it comes to raw materials that are coming in and equipment that you're purchasing, as well as you can use accelerated depreciation. And as Jose was saying, the term for that degree is 15 years, but it can be extended for 15 additional years. And usually that process is very transparent and very easy. When it comes to tax credits, an entity would have to have an incentives decree, either under Act 60 or any of the previous incentives laws that were in place and that are still valid in Puerto Rico. And the process of notifying or qualifying those expenses with the government is quite complex. And that's why I really always suggest for people to be proactive and get educated on that particular process from the start, because it's better to start organizing your finances than to recognize after 1 year that you need to go back and redo your work or reclassify your expenses or label them a certain way. And so another good thing about going for R&D tax credits is that the source of the funding that you invested in that R&D activity can come from a federal grant, and therefore you can gain a lot in that sense. Going into the benefits of tax credits, 50%, as Jose was saying, of all of a special eligible investment, which is the correct way of calling those all the activity that would be labeled as the R&D project would be granted to you as tax credits. And since you already have that 4% corporate tax, or you're probably an entity that's doing a lot more, and that's getting a lot more expenses than income, those tax credits can be then sold, I'm sorry, my English is going somewhere strange right now, to an entity that has a lot of income and would like to lower their tax liability. And so here in Puerto Rico, there's a well-established market for that, where there's a lot more demand than supply. So there are a lot of people interested in lowering their tax liability and not a lot of people selling tax credits. And so, again, Jose gave me a good help here, but they are usually sold at a discount. But all the proceeds of that discount that you're getting are going to be tax exempt as well. So this is a real win-win situation. And so the expenses that you're going to be qualifying, that pretty shortly I'll show you a list. You will have to close your books once your either calendar or fiscal tax year ends, and you would have to classify them annually and submit them, okay? And during the lifetime of your degree, you can keep doing this annually with different R&D projects, okay? So, what's an R&D activity would be anything that is done in order to solve a scientific or technical uncertainty. As an attorney that studied accounting for my bachelor's, I feel I should not, I don't feel in a good position to explain scientific methods to you, but I'm just giving you the minimum denominator or the threshold that we need to meet in order for the government to allow this to us. While there are scientists in the Department of Economic Development and uncovers, most of the people that will come in contact with your documentation are going to be attorneys and people that are experts in tax. So the threshold that we need to meet is not super high, but it still demands certain generosity with information so that a normal person, how do you say, a person that's not scientific, let's say, yeah, that a person that has no background in science can understand in layman terms without lingo or initials or scientific terms, what is it that's going on. And this activity must lead to the creation of either new products, new services, or new process. Therefore, maintenance that is done would not qualify as an R&D activity, and any contract R&D can also not be, unless, and there's a caveat to this, you have a decree precisely for that. So there is a separate decree in another chapter of the incentives code where you can actually request a decree to do R&D as a service. It's a different thing, and that way you can qualify. Okay? And again, you may laugh at my way of explaining this, but scientific uncertainty is something that cannot be immediately solved by a subject matter expert without applying the scientific method. I'm gonna jump through this. Again, it's fairly simple. I'm just stating what the law says. And so, when it comes to an R&D project, there are expected to be several stages. The first one would be the discovery and the proof of concept, where you would start. Then would come the commercialization, and then you would have the either new service, product, or process. You need to be in phase one in order for this to work. And you can come back to phase one and redo it, but this is just to give you a bit of a time frame of how this would happen. And so, a project would begin when the experimental activities are initiated. It would end when the knowledge generated is codified in a useful manner. And the time frame may take as many years as the tax decree that you have in Puerto Rico. Okay? What things are not required by law? You don't have to be successful. That's funny, I'm sorry, but yeah. Your project may be canceled, postponed, or unsuccessful. So you don't need to actually commercialize something out of this. However, you do need to have that goal. And useful proprietary information must be generated. That thing that you just found several ways not to do it. Precisely that. And so the extent of the innovation also is not required by law, meaning that you don't need to disrupt the status quo. Something that actually solves a problem that has been solved in another way would qualify. And also, the intellectual property protection is not required by law, meaning that you don't need to patent this. You could, but it's not required for you to do it. Okay? And so, Puerto Rico allows for both direct experimental activities and indirect experimental activities to be qualified for tax credits. The way this has been interpreted has been that at least 80% of the activities need to happen in Puerto Rico soil and be directly related. And that other 20% can happen either in the States, but it's reduced to that 20%. So it's a complex term to explain, but just know that not everything needs to happen in Puerto Rico as well, and there is a way to qualify outside expenses, okay? And so there are 5 types of R&D activities that are considered direct, which are preliminary studies, theoretical design, prototype development, design of experiments and the execution of those experiments. I'm not going into details. I think you guys know. If you have any questions, I'll answer them later. And so these are the qualified expenses. Payroll expenses, rental expenses, equipment that is purchased, training that is done to your employees, property taxes. There are several. And so, again, looking at the tax credit process, originally you would be during a calendar year, as you do with your regular books. You would gather all the data, analyze it, and organize it. And then there's a process of validation. And this would be the most taxing part of the process. Why? Because a CPA must do a shortened version of an audit called an AUP, which is an agreed upon procedure, that takes a sample of around 6% of all the expenses, and those to be described with details that companies will receive or invoices, and they need to generate an R&D report and kind of a package that includes all that information in order for an attorney in DECA, or the Department of Economic Development and Commerce, to review it, and then they would issue a certification. Once that certification is done, we can go ahead, and there's actually another step that includes having those credits be transferred to the Department of Treasury, and they will be shown in your account in the portal of the Department of Treasury, which is called SURI. And so once they are in SURI, then they can be transferred. And so that's my presentation, everyone. I hope you learned something.
Yeah, thank you. I know this. The Act 60 it's complicated. It's long, and we just only had a few minutes to go over this. But at least now we have a better idea of the aerospace ecosystem. Which companies are here, and we also now have a better idea of the Act 60, specifically in the R&D aspect. So I'm just going to jump pretty quickly for the next 5 minutes. Talk about the spaceport. Because the spaceport is one of the magnets that we're using, to attract companies to provide services, R&D, manufacturing within the spaceport. I don't know. Many of you that work on the space industry, you know that the spaceport, the perimeter of the spaceport does create it's like a safety area for high risk development, and so that's one of the attractives. Furthermore, once you have access to space and you are near the spaceport, then your space operations become less complicated. So just to jump in on the spaceport, I'm gonna share my screen just to give you an overview on what's going on. Okay. My screen is okay. So we have I'm here showing you a map of the east side of Puerto Rico. I'm just gonna zoom out for you guys to have an idea where the spaceport is gonna be at. Hopefully it's okay, it's loading. Okay, so here on the Rooster Roads on the east side, that red dotted line, it's where the horizontal and takeoff and landing plus the vertical launch sites are being proposed. Just to give you an idea, the island, it's 100 miles long and 35 miles wide, while on the west coast on the north side is where the aerospace cluster is. On the east side, we'll be doing the launch activities, and from east to west or west to east, it's about 2.5 hours to 3 hours 3 hour and a half hour car ride. Just to give you an idea, on the time frame on what it takes to travel. This was the largest naval base in the world. It was built in the 1940s to house the Royal Navy in case and the royal family in case Nazi Germany invaded England, and since 2004 it has been closed. Most of the lands, I say most of the lands, are under the LRA, the Local Redevelopment Authority, while the airport is under the Port Authority. The Port Authority has engaged with the FAA already, and they have invested on the licensing process for horizontal takeoff and landing. So, this study happened? It started in 2019 with the feasibility study, and now the environmental assessment or the impact all has concluded. The holdup is right now within the FAA Commercial Space Office and the Air Transportation Office, because this is an airport which receives federal grants, and the issue is the definition of airport and spaceport, and where the money, the federal money is going to come in for the operations and maintenance of the airport. So it's an FAA issue that's going on. Hopefully soon that definition is going to be resolved, and then we will have a spaceport license, with Port Authority being the one with the custody of the spaceport license. I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine once the Port Authority has their spaceport license, then they're gonna issue an RFP for the master developer and operator of the air and spaceport. Then here, that's all for the horizontal takeoff and landing. Here's Punta Medio Mundo. Punta Medio Mundo, it's where the LRA did an RFP for a vertical launch site for small and medium-sized rockets. The deadline for these RFPs is actually in 2 days, April 17th. The difference between this RFP and the horizontal takeoff and landing is that whoever wins this RFP for the vertical launch has to do everything. So the government is not going to put a cent in the environmental study and in infrastructure. The private company or whoever wins has to show that in the finance that they are capable of operating a spaceport and having the infrastructure. I see Jose Hernandez has a hand up.
Jose,
yes.
The RFP was extended until May 16th.
Ah, really?
Because this week the government is on vacation, of course, so they extended it about 1 week.
Thank you. I didn't know that. So for the second time, it has been extended. And just to let you guys know, there's well-known companies, proponents for the spaceport, and to my surprise, even Blue Origin came here for the site visit. 5 advance of the RFP. So that's a good indication that there's interest in the from Puerto Rico and the industry to do a vertical launch. Basically, from here, you have access to most of the most attractive orbits and their inclination. Basically, you can go east and north for orbital for polar orbits, and east for more efficient launch. Puerto Rico is located at 18 degrees north. The latitude is 18 degrees. So it's there's around like 20% fuel cost or fuel consumption or propellant consumption between Florida and Puerto Rico, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Roosevelt Roads has a deep sea port. Again, this is a naval base, so we had here aircraft carriers, submarines, and the largest Navy vessels in the world anchor here and dock here. So there, at least for the infrastructure aspect, there's the logistic aspect already in place. Anyone that wants to come in here have to you have to invest in power, in energy, and water, and on the utilities. So just that's the that's the issue here. Well, yeah. So that's it on the spaceport, and I would like now to open the floor for discussion. It's 4:07 local time. We have around 23 minutes until we close this webinar. So if you have any questions regarding the tax incentives, yeah, raise your hand, and we'll continue the discussion. So if no one has a question, I just want to have George Burke talk about his experience and how he set up his business. Regarding he has a business in the U.S. and then he contracts himself to provide some expert services. Right, George? Is that how are you doing it? George? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so does anybody has a question for the James? Go ahead.
I have a question for Amanda. In regard to the tax credits and intellectual activity counted, how does intellectual property like process licenses and such qualify? To tell you what this is about, one of the companies that I'm working with already has a situation where they produce the design and the intellectual property behind the satellites that they manufacture. They have a subsidiary in the United Kingdom. They license the technology to the subsidiary. The subsidiary then produces it. We set up another subsidiary in Puerto Rico, which is otherwise qualifies with all your requirements, and we cut a similar license to the Puerto Rican subsidiary. Can we count the cost for that license as eligible for the tax incentives?
Solely the part that is being licensed to the Puerto Rico subsidiary.
Yes.
Yeah, but it would. Like, to give you an example, I've worked with cases where we do licensing agreements instead of allocating the value of the whatever it is, of the intellectual property, the software, moving it under the ownership of the entity that is being Puerto Rico. And yes, all those expenses of the licensing can be qualified as part of the, as I was saying, there's a special eligible investment, which
but that would have to be a special request to have it recognized, right?
It depends. It could be. But if there's an element of developing that software further, that would be considered part of a manufacturing degree.
Okay.
Saying that software would be the end product.
Okay. Can you give an idea of the rough cost of going through a licensing process, including what typical attorney's fees might be?
Oh, wow.
Just order of magnitude. I know it depends on
absolutely. Like, if you give me a chance, I can discuss it with peers, and I can communicate with you. I'll touch base with Jose to get your information, and I'll send you an estimate. Because while I don't work directly with the licensing, I do have colleagues that do, and that can give me a better estimate than the one I can provide.
Yeah, maybe we could do a follow-up phone call.
Of course.
Okay, that would be great.
I have.
I want to say real quick something. Back to what George Burke said. Like, to be very careful with the language that we use, because saying that moving to Puerto Rico or doing business in Puerto Rico is a way of evading taxes should not be the language that we use. It's perfectly legal to go this route. And as an attorney, I have an ethical responsibility. So, like, this is not taxation. This, like, as Puerto Ricans, both like judicial persons and natural persons are considered bona fide residents here, and the exclusion from the IRS is something that just comes from the revenue code of the state. So it's not evasion.
Amanda, real quick, there's a question for you in the chat. It says, are the Act 60 incentives only applicable to already established U.S. mainland companies, or does local companies, for example, space companies incorporated in Puerto Rico, are eligible for such incentives?
Of course. Yes, Puerto Rican companies are eligible for most incentives in an Act 60. I think that there is a big misconception with people that are particularly from Puerto Rico, because Act 60 is kind of interpreted as a sister or a brother of what used to be Act 20 and Act 22 back in 2012. And those two were marketed together. So a lot of people kind of mistake them. Act 20 was based on expert services, and Act 22 was for individual investors that were not present in Puerto Rico from one period of time of 2006 to 2012, prior to those acts being enacted. And so, while there is still like Act 22, which has to do with individual investors, that was the one that required for people to not be present in Puerto Rico during a period of time, but Act 20 was open for local companies. And so Act 60, which became codified around 54 incentive laws in the past that had to do with bona fide agricultures, with the film industry, with tourism. There are a lot of things that are contained in Act 60, and local entities and local individuals can qualify. There is even a disposition that allows the benefits of what used to be Act 22 under the private equity chapter, where people can also get very good preferential tax rates when it comes to their long-term capital gains. So, yes, local companies can qualify.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I have a quick comment here, Adriana Perez from DECA. Something that obviously is important for us is to always act in the spirit of the law. Obviously, Puerto Rico is very attractive for many reasons, but the way you can have long-term success here is to see these initiatives and see what the Department of Economic Development actually wants to achieve, working towards that. It's a great benefit to establishing yourself here, but if you're only here for the tax benefits, it's likely going to be a shorter road rather than long. But we're happy to help you guys in any way possible. DECA.pr, where you can email us or reach out to Amanda after this call, or me and Adriana. We're great collaborators of Jose Molina, and we'll support any initiative he has. So here to help you, and our main objective is to give you information so you can make the best decision. It's been a pleasure to be part of this. Thank you for everybody that came.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, so Michael with question.
I just think it's funny. Amanda just answered the question that I had. I was touring. I went to all 4 universities while I was out there in 2012, and I was like, why did nobody talk to me about tax incentives in 2012? Because you just said it with the rule just came to mind. So there were a lot of reasons why I didn't set up shop there. There's a lot of reasons why I'm reconsidering it now. But no one mentioned tax incentives in 2000.
I can say that someone failed you. I was graduating from college, but someone failed you, because even from the early 1900s, when Puerto Rico was an agricultural country that industrialization, the focus was on outside or foreign capital, like the RITCO, which is kind of the predecessor of DECA, of the Department of Economic Development here, originally purchased a lot of properties and rented them for companies to do their industrial processes. And right now, one of the benefits of Act 60 is also that those buildings, or some of those buildings, are currently vacant and can be rented for the to the government for a very small fee. And so prior to Act 20 or Act 22, there was Act 73, Act 135, and there also was a section in the U.S. Code that was Section 936, which brought the big manufacturers that were here during the 90s and prior to the 90s. And so at some point during the 90s, Section 936 was no longer in place. There was like a sunset process that lasted around 10 years and ended in 2010. And since how is it that we belong to, but we're not a part of the states, whatever happens in the states also affects us, plus the excess taxes. And so during the crash of 2008, we felt like it was horribly felt on the island. And a lot of manufacturers were like, well, we can certainly get cheaper like labor elsewhere. And so Puerto Rico went through an exodus. Historically, this is well known. A lot of people vacated Puerto Rico because the opportunities were narrowing down to few. And so the government had to act, had to bring something back in order to keep fostering the commercial environment here. And so during this last decade, there were hurricanes, there were a lot of stuff, and so these incentive laws in many ways are here to safeguard that people keep coming and keep employing Puerto Ricans. And so while Act 60 does not have a requirement for a particular amount of employees, you do need to like offer or propose that you will be hiring Puerto Ricans as part of you trying to convince the government that you deserve to get the incentive. So it's a quid pro quo kind of thing.
Yeah, no, understood that. Yeah. No, mostly what I was doing with Jose and a couple of folks was touring the universities to get a handle on the technical note. So it wasn't that it was an oversight, it was just not the focus of the reason why I was there in the first place.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, very good.
Yeah, I just want to give you a fun.
I can talk so much.
Thank you. I want to just give a fun fact. Michael Lane came here for the Arecibo Observatory Space Academy, and we did a tether balloon experiment with the kids. And Roberto Rodriguez, he's here. He's one of our alumni, and now he's working at Blue Origin. So it's awesome to see how things progress and they end up in the from high school, and they end up in the space industry. Hopefully, with this conversation, we can bring people like Michael, like James, and the others to bring their companies. So Roberto has and people like Roberto have a chance to apply for a job in what they like and their passion in Puerto Rico, and they don't have to leave the island. So this is part of the conversation. So thank you, Michael, for that, and Roberto for entrusting us. Any we have 10 more minutes. Any other questions, comments?
Tax credits for innovation. Let's grow with the space ecosystem on the island.
Totally agree. James?
I make the comment about the quality of the student talent here. Because of the Puerto Rico Space Foundation and company IDI and Jose putting us together, we helped out some groups at the University of Marquez. on space projects, and got to know them a little bit, and they were really impressed by the quality of the talent. When I was down here a couple months ago, we met them at that meeting at our Bowl, and yeah, they're great. And I thought to myself, all right, well, if we put something here, we're going to have no trouble finding the talent to hire locally. So I was impressed.
Yeah, and thank you, Jim, for connecting our students with NASA and the experts. Just to let you guys know, we're developing the first liquid rocket propulsion rocket here in the island. It's done by the students of Mayagüez. Unfortunately, the timeline for the first hot fire test got extended. Now it's going to be in August of this year. But nevertheless, we do have the talent and the will to learn and move forward.
It'd be great if you could talk a little bit about the federal grants and using them as R&D tax credits as an expense. That would be
awesome. Perfect. Yeah, appreciate it. Yes. Hi, Keisha.
Hi. So I'm the director of programs here at DECA. So I work with Amanda and Adriana. So what we do with the federal grants, I think Amanda mentioned a little bit about that during her presentation, that the federal grants that you receive not only so you will receive local grants here, but you can also work with federal grants. And with the federal grants, that money can be multiplied. I call it like a gremlin, that the gremlins in the movie, you would pour water over them and more gremlins would keep coming out. So basically that's what Act 60 does and the federal funding that you receive. For example, here in Puerto Rico, if you submit for an SBIR, the Puerto Rico Science Trust for phase 1 will give you a dollar-to-dollar match fund up to $100,000. For phase 2, you'll give you a dollar-to-dollar match up to $200,000. So imagine applying for your SBIR grant here in Puerto Rico and receiving that matching fund also. So that leverages what you're trying to do with your with the submission. That leverages your submission because reviewers will look at that and say, hey, this person has additional funding. So not only do they have this matching grant, they're going to increase and double that money because they are using the Act 60 funds. So those are ways also that the Act 60 leverages these types of grants. So here in Puerto Rico, what we do at DECA is we help our clients access all of those grants. We help them through the process of the submission process and anything that you need to do to get to them, because I know grant world can be a little bit confusing at times. So that's what we're here for.
Thank you, Keisha. Any question? Any questions on the SBR or any federal grants or local grants? Access to them? Okay. Cool. Thank you, Keisha, again. So we have 6 more minutes. Anybody has a comment? Okay. Noel?
I just want to say that you provide excellent information, especially Amanda. I love the way you brought all the information back from the history. So, and also, I love your background. I know this is RSU.
La ventana.
I always like saying this. It's so fun. So I was nearby the RSU Observatory, and my English teacher all throughout high school was the wife of one of the scientists. So I have a particular fondness and love for the observatory because it allowed me to have a very magnificent English teacher who made me love literature, and that's why I studied law. So in an direct way, I owe it to the RSU Observatory.
Amazing. Thank you, Noel. Yeah. Any other comments? We can close it out, or So just to let everybody know, October 28th is the Caribbean Space Summit over at the Sheraton Hotel. Fortunately enough, Invest Puerto Rico offices are across the street, so that's a good thing. If you guys are interested in coming into the Caribbean Space Summit, we have not announced this yet publicly, in the main media. But if you go to CaribbeanSpaceSummit.org, there's more information. We are gathering our speakers and our panels, and we're seeking sponsorship also. So if you're interested in supporting the event or participating as a speaker, just let me know. There's a call for abstract also in the website that you can fill out. And yeah. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon. Everybody is connected via email. I'll send out another email. I did record this meeting in my phone, so I'll be sharing that too, and be also sharing the transcript.
Jose, I pasted on the chat window my information just in case somebody wants to send me an email directly.
Perfect.
So once again, thank you so much for joining the call, everybody. Pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you. There's a before we leave. There's a comment from George Burke. If Jose, if your presentation and Amanda, is your presentation available to be shared?
I'll send it your way, which I believe is the best. I'll send it your way. You can share it with everybody.
Perfect. I'll do that. Okay.
Bye.
Appreciate it then. So yeah, that's it. Cheers. Till next time. Cheers.